Welcome to Show Studio's Fashion Radio, the podcast video series exploring the remarkable relationship between fashion and music. Every week we'll be joined by fashion's biggest names and the talent of tomorrow as they share their 10 life-defining tunes and the stories behind them. I'm your host, DJ Fat Tony, and today my guest is more than just one of my oldest friends. She's an icon of East London fashion. The personification of fashion and music, she went from working on the draw of the West End's WAG Club to DJing Britain's biggest fashion parties. In 2008, along with Sid Bryan and Joe Bates, she founded the cult knitwear brand Sibling. It's none other than Cozette McCreery. Hey, welcome to Show Studio. I'm DJ Fat Tony and this is Fashion Radio. And today I'm joined by one of my oldest friends in the world, on this planet, believe it or not, the incredible Cozette McCreery. Hi.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's your cue to say hello.
I can say hello. I am definitely one of your oldest,
you are?
oldest friends. Yeah, I met you when I was 17.
A long time ago, right?
Yeah.
At the WAG Club, working in Soho clubs. Where did I actually meet you, first of all?
You actually met me when I was being a total made in Chelsea Sloaney pony at the Great Gear Market. And I think you were with Richard Habley.
Yeah, I would have been with Richard Habley,
And the two of you were just like, I went in for white nail polish and the two of you just like started basically like looking at me in my fake Sade outfit. And and then we just started having a conversation and
You've worked for everyone, but let's talk about Sibling.
Mm-hmm.
So if anyone who doesn't know Sibling, now's your chance to Google, right? Tell us about Sibling.
Yeah, so Sibling came about, it was me, Joe Bates and Sid Bryan. And Joe I knew through clubs, mainly not to let him into clubs because he was an absolute nightmare and would drink your bar dry.
Yeah.
And Sid I knew through actually almost sort of discovering him at the Royal College and then him working with Bella Freud.
Yeah.
And we decided, we were all working in industry and we decided that we actually just wanted to do a men's knitwear line. In all honesty, because Sonia Rykiel Menswear stopped.
Yeah.
And it really kind of hacked us off because it was like the joy, we felt the sort of joyful, playful knitwear that was part of menswear was being removed. Mm-hmm. So we decided to do it as a project. And we got all our mates together. We launched it in like a garage on Curtain Road. Yeah. The George and Dragon did the bar. Bistrotech provided everyone with mini Scotch eggs. I think that got more press than the actual collection. And as a project, we thought that would kind of be it. And then Beams, the buyer from Beams in Japan, approached us and said, we actually want to buy this. And so we started doing it seriously.
Because, at that point in time, there was no real menswear knitwear designers, solely doing men's knitwear.
No.
You had Joseph Trico doing knitwear, obviously, for women. Everyone was women. If you wanted men's knitwear, it kind of went down to Pringle or Scott and Lyle or any of those really sort of like...
Or Westwood.
But Westwood, but that was a part of a collection,
Exactly. And if you were Westwood, you had to definitely be the type of person that
would wear Westwood and that would pull it
Westwood.
Off. Totally, 100%.
And also, like in doing menswear, it was a medium that we hadn't done any of us had designed for in the past. And then it also led me especially into really pushing the British Fashion Council to have a menswear designated day or a few days rather than tacking it onto women's wear, which unfortunately is the way it's now gone back to. But we were like such a militant bunch of menswear designers. I loved it. It was like really the peak.
But most anyone that comes really out of that East End sort of factoring of fashion, I like that. Lulu Kennedy. I could go on. There's such a long list of East End made designers that are like collectives or whatever. Just that creativity that comes out of East London.
Yeah.
From a clubbing background.
Absolutely.
Always the clubbing background.
Absolutely. Like I did the door at Boombox. That was one of like my sort of main things. And it was great because I met pretty much every single design student there was.
Yeah.
And all of those people either went on to become something bigger in their own right, or they assisted like major stylists or so I had this link to this incredible network of like really young people that had a lot of enthusiasm and had a lot of enthusiasm also for our brand and really kind of pushed it. You know, working with the stylist Matthew Joseph was like incredible. I mean, I knew him through Boombox, through going out, through being at the Joiners at like 3-4 o'clock in the morning. And then also Katie Grand, who'd been part of, you know, the whole Bricklayers pub scenario.
Yeah.
So it was literally working with your mates.
Yeah.
And being really pissed off with what was on offer and just thinking, stop moaning about it. Let's do something about it.
So I want to talk about your musical knowledge within fashion, because I've known, as I said at the beginning of this, we've known each other a very long time. You used to work with me way before Boombox, I may add.
Way before Boombox.
Way before Boombox who?
Oh my God, 18 years old on a Saturday night.
At the WAG Club with myself and Paul Lonigan and a few other fashion greats on that door.
Yeah.
And you know, and that's kind of you had this love and knowledge of music, and that's why I wanted to get you on here, because I think it's really important that you're on here, because, you know, not only because of what you do within fashion, but also that your knowledge of the two, they go hand in hand. And, you know, I got sent your track list last night.
You went, what the hell?
No, I was quite surprised by it. I mean, obviously, some of it I kind of guessed would be on there. Do you know what I mean? Let's start with your first track. Your track from your childhood, which influenced your personal style and taste. What is it? Because here I've got like 8 different tracks.
You have got, well, that's because like, I feel like I'm a sort of mashup of so many different things. I feel like incredibly privileged to have been part of a generation where we had all sorts of music. You could watch Top of the Pops, of course, was my main thing. And also on a personal level, Top of the Pops was the thing that my dad used to get home earlier from work for. And then him, and if my brother was home from boarding school, and I would all just dance around in the sitting room. Yeah. And then when my mum would come in, we'd all sit down and behave ourselves. But it was like, it was an amazing way to hang out with my dad. So Top of the Pops to me,
it was a family thing, right?
It was a family event, real family thing. And in the sort of like, you know, late 70s, early 80s, there was all sorts of music. There was like reggae music. There was still some disco. There was, you know, power ballads. So I come from a generation where I feel like there was so much stuff going on.
Well, that was the magic of Top of the Pops. It was such an eclectic chocolate box of an assortment. You know, the charts at that point in time weren't dominated by the same genre. There was so much going on. You know, you had Tina Turner, you had, you know, Stockhausen and Mortimer, you had everyone reinventing stuff. You had the Pet Shop Boys reinventing Dusty Springfield. All of this stuff creatively going on.
And introducing us to older generations. I mean, there was also the whole like Levi's thing where suddenly you were all listening to Marvin Gaye again.
100%.
Because it all felt very sort of cool.
Because we didn't have social media and our lives weren't completely bombarded with everybody else's taste.
Yeah.
It was all about personal taste.
Yeah.
It's about what we'd learned and learned behaviors. You know, what most people, when they come on this podcast, talk about is the stuff that their parents listen to.
Absolutely.
On a Sunday or whenever the family are at home.
So my father, who you know very well, and sends his love, by the way, who's you know, comes from a very good Irish family, and he just would listen to soul and reggae music, which everyone finds, you know, quite odd, but he loved it, and you know, and then he'd play. Then he got into Whitney Houston. He really likes ABBA, Simon and Garfunkel, all that type of stuff. So there was always music, especially when my dad was driving. He had an 8-track. So we listened to a lot of different music and different music genres. And it was nothing to do with, you know, oh, that's what somebody should listen to.
No, of course not.
He just listened to whatever he liked. So he kind of installed in me a love of not being a snob about music. Yeah, so for me, music has always been incredibly important and has always been part of my creative process.
Okay, so you on your little list here, you've got Sugar Minor, you've got Beyond Burning Up by Madonna, you've got Don't You Want Me by Human League, you've got Careless Memory by Duran Duran, you've got Stand and Deliver by Adam and the Ants, right? Which one of them? You can only choose one.
I can only choose one. It would have...
I've already chosen my one.
Oh, have you? Okay, well, for me personally, it would be Good Thing Going by Sugar Minott, because
which is an amazing track.
It absolutely reminds me of dancing with my dad.
It's a beautiful memory.
In the sitting room, just doing that sort of like thing where you're just basically swinging your arms. It's a good swing your arms.
It's an amazing track, and you know what? It's such a happy track, and that's a really happy memory as well.
Yeah.
Mine was, if I had to choose one, it would definitely have been Don't You Want Me by Human League.
That's a classic.
Because it's just, there's always someone I met who was working as a waitress in a cocktail bar whenever that track's on.
Exactly.
Because I have to point at them.
When Princess Julia and I used to do Sing Along, which was like one of the first karaoke's in East London, that was our go-to song.
Yeah, of course.
So, I don't know if I was Phil. Probably not, knowing Julia.
No, you wouldn't be, yeah. Right, track 2, a track from a film that's important to you. I love this one as well.
Yeah, I actually put More Than Physical by Bananarama from Rita Sue and Bob too, because that film just was... I just remember seeing it and thinking, I've never seen anything like this. This is just like the most crazy, naturalistic, people shouting at each other... I don't know. And also it's just about female friendship. I just really loved it. So that's why I have that.
It's such a great track. And you know, that film kind of really was the beginning of a lot of that revolution of that change within films.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The fact that you've never really seen anyone shout at each other.
Yeah.
In that way, it is bizarre.
Yeah. And also coming, there was the... Bob, who's like got the upwardly mobile wife and the new build house, and the sort of cross-pollination of the two social groups as well. I think it was, but all done with incredible English humour.
The best.
Absolute best.
When we do classic, we do classic.
Yeah.
There's certain ones that's like, Rita, Sue and Bob too. And then you've got like Abigail's Party. We've got all of these amazing British classics that are just so timeless.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so revolutionary in so many ways.
And they also have they're saying something about, it is social commentary.
100%.
And they have very hard hitting, things to talk about, but it's always done in a way that like starts a conversation and also is done with humor.
Because we all relate to it.
Yeah.
There's a character in every one of these great films that we relate to. We all know someone like Bob.
Yeah.
We all know someone like Rita.
Not my dad, by the way.
But we all know that person.
Yeah, yeah.
And the magic of Bananarama.
Yeah.
It never ceased to make my hair stand on end. They're just genius.
Yeah. But also, like, for me, it was, that whole look that they had, like the, country-born hair gel, the bit of rag in your hair. I mean, me and my school friends, we just cleaned up at Miss Selfridge because Miss Selfridge was doing a sort of version of it.
When they did the Fun Boy Free look as well,
Exactly.
I was their stylist for about 3 years.
No.
Did you not know that?
No.
Have you not never read the Bananarama book?
No.
Yeah, I styled them. Me, Paul Lonigan and Ray Allington, who was a hairdresser.
Yeah.
No, neither of those two are with us anymore, but they were both great in their own way. I got taken, I said to them, who styles you? It's awful. And they were like, well, why don't you do it? And I was like, okay.
Oh my God.
And that was it.
Yeah.
And then I styled them. I did Robert De Niro. I did like 3 or 4 videos with them.
Amazing.
I put them like all in gold jewelry around their neck, like Chavy. Like did them I remember many a night, like being there all night long on set and just thinking, I'll just put them in that. You know what I mean? Like, it's so funny.
They can take it,
But they were great, that they really, they really are a moment. And they, and we everyone loves a bit of Bananarama.
Yeah, totally.
Right. What do you listen to day to day?
I always have my iPod on shuffle. I'm a bit old school, so yeah. So it's not Spotify or anything like that. It's like proper iPod shuffle. And sometimes it probably plays a better set than I do.
I can't believe you still got a fucking iPod.
I've got a gold iPod as well.
How do you charge it?
It's in a boss little thing. It's all good. It's very old school, but I like the fact that it's got all my sort of old music on it. Yeah. So it will play anything from a bit of ska to a bit of Britney Spears to, Fleetwood Mac, what have you. It will just kick anything out, I just like the sort of eclecticness of it.
And also, it doesn't have an algorithm. So it's not going to play you what it thinks you want to hear.
Yeah.
Something that you talked about earlier. See, we've been talking about Bananarama. So when I leave it on my phone all day long, I'll have Bananarama popping up.
Absolutely. So it's very, it's very kind of like old school. And it might play Metallica. And then it will then come back with, I don't know, something from a film, or it'll play
Does it surprise
Mariah
you
Carey
all the time when it's on?
Yeah, and also sometimes it surprises me because it'll play an old dance track and I will have totally forgotten that, one, I've owned it, and two, that, it's like, why am I not playing this again?
So when those tunes pop up on your iPod, not iPad, we're not that forward thinking, on your iPod, do you sometimes close your eyes and it takes you straight to that moment?
Yeah, it might take me to like a show, or it could take me to, going to a rave off the M25 with you, or it could be...
How many fields did we walk across?
Oh, God. We went to, that whole scenario. And you were always really good. You were always like, have you got money to call your dad? Tell him when, because I would disappear for like 3 days.
Didn't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you went off the rails for a little while.
I went off the, well, yeah.
Well, you didn't really go off the rails. You just kind of went missing. And I could sit here and say, oh, Cozette went off the rails. It was me that was actually off the rails. So I would blame everyone else for being off the rails.
That's very true.
Do you know what I mean? It was easier for me to say, oh my God, you see the state of them instead of looking at me.
Yeah.
That old one finger pointing at you and 4 pointing back at me scenario.
But we always had like a really great time. And some of it would remind me of like being at like, Trade in that little which had a late license because it had that really funny little breakfast room.
Do you remember?
Oh my God. So all of those sort of things. But I'm not one really for being super nostalgic on anything, but it will often, and before like the Sibling Show, about 2 or 3 weeks before we would do a show, I would have a night where I just wouldn't be able to sleep. And then I would get up at whatever time it was, run a bath and put my iPod on shuffle and think about the music and think about what music we were going to use for the show, because it was really important to us.
They go hand in hand, it should be the heartbeat of that collection. But it's
also a way for you to immediately tell your audience what your kind of mood is with the
100%.
With the show, like what your references were, kind of where you're coming from. And for us, it was very important that the shows, we were always getting told off about it, mainly because we used to have very hot male models, that our shows were too short, but we wanted that kind of like 7-inch, 3 to 4 minutes, bam, 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 done, finale, off.
Short, sharp and shocking.
Yeah, like a little punk record.
Yeah, that's how it should
be. And we would try and pack in as many songs as we possibly could in that short space of time, just because we wanted everything to be very like, smack you in the face, powerful. But we wanted people to leave our shows thinking, wow, that was something.
Yeah, you want people to leave thinking, oh my God, what just happened? Not, oh my God, what just happened?
Yeah.
You want that, wow, that was incredible. That whole magic of people wanting more is what it's all about.
Yeah, and it would be often driven by the music.
What do you listen to when you're working?
What do I listen to? Well, I have to say I listen to a lot of Madonna. Just because she was in my list for my track from childhood. Burning Up, I remember seeing that on a programme called The Tube, and that was it. I went to the Caterham Youth Club that evening, with the dog collar, the choke chain. The dog was probably very glad to see the back of them. I had a pair of my grandmother's lace gloves that she allowed me to chop the fingers off. Madonna kind of changed the way I dressed.
I think Madonna changed a way a lot of people dressed and a lot of way people thought about things. You know, I did so many tours with her back in the day, and like just, you know, the magnificence of Madonna, the energy. It's what she brings to that stage. It's not about her voice. We all know, you know, there's far worse singers out there, but there's also far greater singers. Yeah. You know, Madonna it's a show.
Yeah,
and you know what you're going to get, and it's just incredible.
And she like introduced me to, you know, to Jean Paul Gaultier's clothing, you know, all of these type of things. And also she sort of showed that you didn't have to dress a certain way as a woman, and you could bleach your hair, and you could be Marilyn Monroe one week, and you could be a sort of black-haired, you know.
Madonna on top of the pops in the pink wig and the Keith Haring jacket and the Keith Haring Dr. Martin boots doing Holiday.
Yes, I learned those dance moves.
Mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. Literally changed the demographic completely when she did it. And it was a pink wig.
Yeah.
But everyone was so blown away by it because it was that constant change within Madonna. Constantly changing, constantly moving forward. And she's still doing the same now. Yeah. Good luck to her.
And also still supporting the community that supported 100%. Her from the beginning, which is, you know, something I feel very akin to. Like, you know, the LGBTQ plus community was there for me. And, you know, really, really supported me in whatever I wanted to do.
Well, you're a big part of that community. Yeah. You know, I hate the word ally. Ally, really, I find it quite offensive. Yeah. When we say, oh, they're an ally. They're my friend. They're friends. It's like, not an ally. You know, I get it. Companies can be allies. Yeah. But people can't. I think people, it's more personal than that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You're not doing it because you want something for the gay community. You're doing it because they're your community.
My mates. Exactly.
They're your community. You're a member of that community, regardless of your sexuality.
Absolutely.
And I just think that, you know, you're a big part of that. Everything that you do has always been queer-based. Yeah. You know what I mean? From the day I met you, you've always been queer-based. Yeah. Always.
I mean, I've always, you know, and it was, you know, even like I sat for Lucian Freud and we would talk about his like clubbing and I would talk about mine because I was very good friends with Lee and Nicola Bowery and stuff. And then, you know, he would talk about Danny LaRue and he'd be like, well, you probably don't know Danny LaRue. I'm like, of course I know Danny LaRue.
Everyone knows Danny LaRue.
Like, blimmin' hell. So like we're all sort of like camp icons.
Right, favourite Madonna track before we move on? Favourite
Madonna track, Open Your Heart. I love Open Your Heart. I just love the whole, you know, to me, it's more the video than anything else. Like her in that mask and doing, I think she just looks so incredible. And yes, when I play this at the Glory, I'm often flaying my arms around in a very bad way, trying to reenact the video.
And what do you listen to when you're creating?
I actually listen probably to more dance music when I'm creating, but like of the you know, of the sort of era when you and I were going out. So like when
you
were
what, today? Yeah.
Like today.
Yeah, like nothing's changed in 40 years, darling.
But yeah, so like I always used to like the fact when you DJ'd at the Café de Paris, you would also always play something that, you know, had singing, a bit of piano in it. I remember you sent me into Black Market once in Soho and went, oh, get me some record, just pick up some records for me. I just want singing, uplifting, bit of piano. And so it was all that kind of like 10 City and I actually mentioned to you about Respect by a Diva because that was the first record that you actually ever played for me for my birthday.
Oh, was it?
But you really cussed me for it. I was like there in the fashion again. I was in a Jasper Conran dance leotard with a small leather skirt across it with a cross back, and I said to you, oh, could you play me a Diva's Respect? And you went, well, it's not fucking Radio 1. And I was like, Well, yeah, and I remember being
There's a
really
reason why my book's called I Don't Take Requests. Right.
And I remember being really crestfallen, and you went, give me one good reason. I went, it's my birthday, and you just sort of like shrugged. And then I went off to go and get a drink or something, or lick my wounds, and I came back, and then you kept pinging the back of my dance leotard, and then you were pointing at the record, and then you played it.
There you go. I do have a heart.
Exactly. And then at the end, you gave it to me.
But it's such a classic again. A diva is like, we play that as well at the branches. It's a really important track from our era, and it's just, you know what it is? It's happiness personified.
Yeah, and also female empowerment. 100%. It's like, where's my dinner? Where's this?
100%. The majority of all good tracks, and I will put my head out there, are women. Are powerful women. All the classics. Let's go through the classics. If you whatever you play, if I'm doing certain gigs, like for whether it be for Vogue or whether it be thingy, I will play those empowered women tracks, and people straight away feel the dance floor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Robin S. Show Me Love. Alison Limerick, where the list is, they're all women. Yeah. Julia McKnight. Yeah. They're all women.
Yeah. The other one that I always remember, which used to make me howl with laughter, was Sweet Pussy Pauline.
Yeah.
Do you remember that track? And you'd start playing it, and it has a very distinctive, sort of drum, almost knocking, someone's playing a glockenspiel. And then because of where the DJ booth was on the edge of the dance floor at the Café de Paris, this round dance floor, and then you could look up, and it had that double staircase. Yeah. And the moment that intro started, we used to wait for the doorman to rush down. It's really near the knuckle. And the moment they sort of got to the dance floor and were trying to push through people, you changed the record.
Yeah, Stevie Wonder, that's where Stevie Wonder came. They sent his security over to ask me for that track. And
really?
He was like, Stevie Wonder's here. And I said, I know, I can sing. That's what I said to him. And he was like, he wanted to buy this track off you. And I was like, no, you can't buy it. I gave it to him in the end. But he was like, he was obsessed by it.
It was crazy. But brilliant.
Those bitch tracks of the early 80s and mid-90s was so good in that respect. It literally, Sweet Pussy Pauline, there were so many of those tracks coming out at that point in time. And it really was that sort of crossover of ballroom and voguing houses. Yeah. That's where it all stemmed from, into early house music.
Yeah, yeah. And talking over tracks as amazing. Well, and kind of even shouting, tribal shouting, or shouting from the army kind of 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of thing. But yes, I have very fond memories of that song as well.
What song best represents the sound of your studio?
Well, even though I said that, I tend to listen to a lot of Madonna, and it's Another Woman, I have to admit. I listened to, I think, Rapture by Blondie.
Can I just stop you? It's not another woman, it's another icon.
Oh, yes.
It's another iconic woman.
I know.
Deborah Harry. I mean, it doesn't really get better than that. Do you know what I mean?
My godson, we actually saw, I think it was at Lovebox, and my godson was really, I think he must have only been about 6 or 7. And he was introduced to Debbie Harry afterwards. And she was like, oh, did you like the show? And he went, you did very well for an old lady.
And she does.
She does.
And she does. And she's looking younger than ever.
She is.
She's looking incredible right now. And, but Rapture was one of those tracks, yet again, it's timeless. It's a timeless track.
And it was a crossover track. It was all the music that I was listening to that was rap music that was coming out of America was then put into this sort of, almost disco beat.
Yeah, it was a disco track.
It's just a glorious
and the rap
track.
Freddie told me everybody started DJ spin, and I said, my mind, fascist fat. So genius.
It's so brilliant.
Right,
now.
Best and most important song you've heard on the Catwalk Show. My favourite question, this is.
Oh, okay.
Always my favourite question.
Cool. Did I give you a good answer? Maybe, maybe not.
Go on. Yeah, I think it's a pretty amazing answer, actually.
I said, hit me with your rhythm stick, because when I was a teenager, there was this documentary by Clive James, which I wish I could find. I've looked for it. If anyone's got it somewhere, please send me the link to it, because he followed Paris Fashion Week.
Yeah.
And he did interviews. I think the interview of Jerry Hall you can find, but he interviewed Sonia Rykiel. He interviewed some of the the photographers. There was like one photographer, and he was like, he's even like bleeding in it and saying that one of the security had hit him on the head with a talkie-walkie. I remember that. But they showed you catwalk shows, and they also showed you a little bit backstage, because obviously in the sort of 80s there was a different sort of, I keep using the word energy, but there was a different energy on the catwalk. It was very more about getting multiple models on the catwalk. They were obviously all plied with a little bit of champagne before they went out. I mean, we still did that when we were doing Bella Freud, and if I'd be backstage at Vivian shows, it was always champagne. You were sponsored by champagne. And I just remember seeing this show and this just gaggle of models, and it's hit me with your rhythm stick, and they are swinging their handbags, and they're just really enjoying being on the catwalk.
I think that whole series of it. I mean, when he used to come to London, he used to go to Paris, and he used to go to Milan, he used to go around the world and do that. Clive James used to do those documentaries. You can actually get it, I think, on like something like Dave or something like that. Because I watched one recently. Yeah. And it was the London one where he came to Quiet Storm and he came to all these other places. Yeah. And that was he's another forgotten hero in a way. Those Clive James documentaries really opened up, as you say, it showed you catwalk shows. Yeah. It opened up such a world that we didn't see. Yeah. Okay, best music video in terms of fashion.
I've said Slave to Love by Brian Ferry, mainly because I think when I looked at that video, I wanted every single piece of clothing that was in it. I think it was definitely, there was a liar in it. There may have been
pure Azagury. It was so Azagury.
I mean, it was just so incredible. And all, again, the women, like Sod Brian, all the women
empowered.
Looked amazing. Yeah. You know?
But the video was about the women. It wasn't about Brian Ferry.
Yeah.
He was just, that was the backing track to that video. That's what everyone talked about. Yeah. Everyone talked about the women in it, the way they were dressed, how beautiful it. That's what
the way they were shot.
It was really.
Yeah.
We had a few Roxy musics on here. Stephen Jones talked about Roxy music because he was obsessed with, with Anthony Price and stuff. And, it kind of is like this generation have completely forgotten about Brian Ferry.
Yeah.
And he really was and still is a style icon in so many ways. Yeah. And I think that video really was ahead of its time.
Yeah. I mean, you could watch it now and think it was something that was made last week.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, it was so, and also it's about paparazzi and I think the model who's in it, I think she's French. No, maybe actually she isn't French. She's very good friends with Jerry Stafford, and her name has completely eluded me. But she was very blonde, little bit buxom, and has this outfit on where she looks like, she just looks incredible. I mean, who wouldn't want to look that incredible than some woman in a Roxy music video?
Exactly right. Sold itself. Okay, 9. A song from a musician you'd wish to work with, living or dead. I hate that bit. Nick Knight put that in, living or dead. Living or dead. Yes, not like an artist you'd love to work with, past or present.
Yeah.
Living or dead.
Living or dead. Well, this one I think is definitely dead. I mean, I put Scott Walker, mainly because I just think, I don't know that much about Scott Walker. And I picked Jackie by Scott Walker because I just think the lyrics are just incredible. And also they remind me of quite a few of our friends, like back in the day. Like we used to know a lot of the Dilly Boys.
Oh, we loved the Dilly Boys.
And the Hoxton Boys.
Yeah, you know that.
Then they were all doing their thing and, earning their money. We're all, in the end, we're all hustling.
Well, we all went to the same clubs and we all went to the same after hours and we all all at the end of the day were all on the same level because it was all about laughter and fun.
Yeah.
And you could have a real laugh with those Dilly Boys.
Yeah.
Especially after they finished work.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? And everyone, it really was, everyone was out for themselves in so many levels, but there was a real camaraderie
yes.
amongst those people that went to those clubs.
And we all went to like the late night sort of drinking dens in Soho and stuff like that.
All the illegal drinking dens of Soho, like 79s and there's so many of them. And Pink Panther, just the best places on earth. You would go there and you wouldn't dream of going to those places now. People wouldn't dream of going to those places now because it's a different kind of feeling. You'd go there and you'd be hanging out with pickpockets and rent boys and drag queens and everything else.
Yeah.
Which people would look down.
Policemen.
Totally. Yeah, lots of policemen. And we'd get raided and we'd all walk around the block and go back in.
Yeah.
But there was never any trouble inside that venue because everyone was there for the same reason.
Absolutely. To have fun and to go on somewhere and your night wasn't finishing at that time. And I think it was kind of like quite a sort of beautifully naive time as well because there was no one taking pictures, no one recording
no one on their phone wanting to know where everyone else is.
You could be a major Hollywood actor. No one gave a shit. No one was filming you drunk as a skunk at the bar, and it allowed us a certain kind of freedom thing.
Right, track 10. What represents how you feel about life right now?
Well, I did have to add a bit of George Michael. So for me,
I'd be very disappointed if you didn't.
Yes, it would be Freedom by George Michael because I think we, all of us, need a bit of that at the moment.
100%.
And like George, I knew. Gosh, I think the first time I met him, I was actually at school. It was at a roller disco that neither of us wanted to do any roller skating. So we just sort of chatted. And then we went to I think it was Capital Radio with Gary Crowley. And I think maybe Haircut 100 had something to do with it, but saw him there as well. And he was just like somebody you just sort of knew of. I didn't know he was particularly into music or anything. He was, a bit monobrow and but really lovely. And then when I came to London and did my A-levels, I actually did my A-levels with his cousin. And then when I met you, then George was very much became part of our sort of like group of people. And just the loveliest person.
I've just done a documentary about him for Channel 4, actually, which comes out, I think it's coming out in March, April, regarding the outing of George Michael, when he got caught in the toilet and that is, because it's 30 years.
Crikey.
30 fucking years ago.
That's crazy.
Right?
Well, remember that person from Sony asked you to approach me and I ended up having a coffee with them at Bar Italia, where I was basically asked if I wanted to be George Michael's PA.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, PA? And then they sort of gave me the job description. I was like, this isn't PA. This is just like pretending to be his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And I knew his boyfriend. So I was like,
it was really sad times.
I can't do it. But I love George and Freedom especially. I think were you DJing for him at Wembley?
Yeah, I DJed at Wembley, yeah.
So
I did Wham The Final. Yeah. And I did the final after party at the Hippodrome as well.
Right.
Freedom,
and I remember you did the after party and for whatever reason, Elton John was there.
Yeah,
and for whatever reason, Elton John's heavies closed off the VIP section. You're meant to be DJing. I can't get into the VIP section. I come down very full of myself. Do you know I'm Fat Tony's friend, box boy, whatever. And I was like, they won't let you. Were like, who? Like this. Storming up, having a big row with Elton John, which was actually quite funny. And all the time you're meant to be DJing, but we can hear music going on. And it's Freedom by George Michael. And it seems like it's the longest 12-inch ever because it just is being played and played and played. And then when we go back to after we've had our bit of fun and still not get into the VIP section, I think you went in and stole a whole load of drink, which wasn't really necessary. It was just out of principle. And we came back to the DJ booth and there was George. And he was just constantly playing his own record.
Because what had happened was a balloon had burst. This is what really happened. So I went off to do the arguing, as per usual, Tony, and a balloon had burst. They had these big balloons, and a balloon had burst, and a bit of the rubber had gone down and hit the decks and knocked the needle off the record.
Oh shit!
While I was up there arguing,
yeah.
So that's why George went down and started putting the record back on and playing it. Yeah. So that was the true story of what really happened that night. A balloon burst and went onto the record and knocked the needle off the record in a massive party while I was upstairs arguing.
But I just remember it. And
they still booked me for all that
exactly. Stuff. But I just remember, like, you know, because George has such a distinctive dance, like all of us, like, you know, doing George's dance. It was the same when I met Paul Rutherford. Like, I remember crying.
Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Yeah, crying with laughter on a dance floor. And I think it was
flatmate as well.
And meeting him, and he's like going, what's so funny, love? And I went, you dance like you dance on Top of the Pops. Top of the Pops again. Yeah,
there you go. Well, look, it's been amazing to talk to you today and go back over memories. And you know what? I love you, and so does the rest of the world. You know, anyone that knows you and whose lives you've come into, treasure you, because you are people go on about people being a British institution, but you really are a London institution.
Oh, thank you.
People, you know, look up to you, and you stood the test of time.
I have.
And that's what I love. And so long may you reign. Thank you for coming to Show Studio. We'll always be here. We're like cockroaches, babe. Just remember that. You know, and go home and watch some old Top of the Pops repeats.
Oh, I will.
I love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Love you too.